Hello, welcome everyone. I am Sumana Jetty. Happy to be here and get started on this incredible session, our micro learning session. I just joined a little bit early, just to just to get settled and give everybody a moment to join and see where we're at. I know I did start this. I scheduled this a little bit late. There's just a lot going on. So by the time I scheduled this, it was I think yesterday. Yeah, I mean I typically do it earlier than that, but it just so happened that times got missed and we started to reschedule this. So, anyways, really happy to be here. Really happy to do this micro learning session. This is our third session. This is the third one that we're doing every month, the second Wednesday of every month. That's what I do. So, really just kind of excited to be part of this conversation about leading through burnout. Maybe I'll just wait a couple seconds, just get people an opportunity to join. And if you're listening live on LinkedIn or on YouTube, just give me a shout out in the comment section just so that I know that you're listening. But you can also watch the replay. I'm absolutely happy to have you join and listen on the replay as well. There's a lot to talk about. I am pretty tired. Maybe that I'll start there and center this conversation on an important element of well-being, which is stress and burnout. So I'll start by saying that I'm pretty tired. It is still Ramadan, so there's a fasting going on. And with the time change that just happened on the weekend, the last couple hours seem harder than they did like on Saturday. So we get to break our fast at 7:30 now. And it's just been, I don't know why. The hour just has thrown me off my game. Meryl, thank you for joining early. Imran, thank you for joining early as well. But yeah, it's been it's been kind of one of those one of those weeks where I've been just still recalibrating since so yeah, so does anybody feel that with the time change? Maybe I'll start there. Does anybody feel that with the time change? Daylight savings, oh my god, every year we spring forward, we fall backwards. I know some provinces in Canada have almost stopped doing it, so they don't do it anymore, and they've just sort of they're going to stick to one time zone, and I think that's a really brilliant idea. But for me, the switching back and forth, good lord, it really does, it just really throws me off. So I'm not as energetic as I normally am, so I do apologize for today's session not being as energetic. I kind of felt that, but it's okay. We're talking about burnout. Welcome all the folks who've joined. This is a quick and easy peasy. We're going to do 30 minutes, right? 15 minutes of conversation. I'll show you some slides. And this is kind of our commitment with Jetty Wellness to do a reskill session so that when we post our blog once a month, so this is all a continuation of what we're doing, sharing evidence-based strategies to you. So it all starts with that monthly blog that I post the first Wednesday of every month, and that gets disseminated to everybody through me and all of my now. It's probably going to be 13 ambassadors. I cannot believe that number is growing so fast, almost every single day. So the ambassadors disseminate this information all over LinkedIn. In fact, yesterday I had a nice little surprise from Sajid Kumar, and he had taken one of our pieces of content at the event that I'm doing on the 26th, which I'll talk to you more about later. It was in his newsletter, so it was really nice to see this dissemination that's happening. So anyways, I guess my first question was, how do we feel about this time change? Because I'm definitely struggling, I'll tell you that much. But otherwise, I feel like we are good to go. What I'm going to do is spend some time with you The first 15 minutes is going to be just me talking about the contents of the blog that we post, and this is again just meant to be like a learning series. I'm committed to doing this the second Wednesday of every month because the blog that gets posted on the first Wednesday of every month. So continuation of that. And happy to just dive right in. So let's get started. Leading through burnout. So when I wrote this blog last month, some of my ambassadors maybe know this, but like February was hard. I think January was also hard, but February was a little hard. And I was feeling it, and I wanted to look at our data from the previous month, and the feedback blog that we wrote was well read and well received. And so I said, why not we continue that conversation and keep building on the pieces of learning that is so critical to retention, right? So that's the whole piece, knowledge stacking. That's what we call it. How do we keep building onto different components of the same piece? So let's dive right in. First things first, I'm going to put the screen up. First things first, my big question, or not even a question, my commentary for the next little while is going to be about the burnout profiles. So when we talk about burnout, maybe you don't really need to see me, so I'll just go this way. Burnout profiles, when we talk about burnout, it's become quite a mainstream terminology right now, but I want you to know that there's different domains of burnout. This is all from literature. And so we want to kind of assess and figure out like where we're at, because we're all going to feel burnout differently. So on the left hand side here, there's the person that's disengaged, which is very, very common, right? The disengagement data out of Gallup, out of all the major sort of organizations, the disengagement data says that people are disengaged, right? That's where the whole quitting thing started. So that's where that disengagement comes from. So these are the people that are highly cynical, and they're at the point in their life where they're just clocking in, clocking out, and they're not really putting in a lot of extra effort in. This is also burnout, okay? The one in the middle, this is the one that we are commonly learning about burnout. When we think about burnout, this is what we think about. We think about that empty battery, the overextended, highly exhausted individual. So on the left hand side, we have the person that's like, you know what, I'm completely disengaged. On the middle section, we have someone who is highly exhausted. And this is what we typically think when we think about burnout. But on the right hand side, we have someone who is also on the burnout domain. And this is the person that is highly experiencing high inefficacy. So they start to feel that they're not good at their jobs. They start to feel that they're not effective in how they perform. So they're kind of in their own little burnout. Navigating how to perform well. So each of these domains are all burnout, and you can probably move through. And I don't have that image from a literature that I usually show in one of my decks, but each of them you can kind of oscillate and go through and experience all of them if you wanted to, or maybe get stuck in one of them. So there is really kind of a flexible mindset here to think about it. So maybe the first question here, Charlie, Stephen, Imran, and everyone else who's here, welcome. Meryl, my first question would be, where do you see Mary Kay from Toronto? Hey, where do you see yourself? Without the proper. I guess this is just more of a general response, because there is a test you can do. You can go to your doctor to get diagnosed. But if I were to just tell you there's the disengagement, there's the overextended, and there's the ineffective individual, what persona do you feel that you are more likely to resonate with based on your current condition, or maybe in the past? I'll tell you, for me personally, while you put those comments in the chat box, for me personally, I started off with being ineffective. That was my primary. This was many, many years ago, which was the reason Jenny Wellness actually started. But many, many years ago, I was experiencing inefficacy as one of the primary things that I was feeling at my work. I'm educated. I have a great job. I love my team. I love managing outbreaks, epidemiology, surveillance. I loved all of that. But I started to feel like I just couldn't do the job. I thought I was just not happy, but I felt like I was dropping the balls on being a very good public health, infectious disease epidemiologist. So that didn't sit well with me. And then the other pieces, the overextended piece came later. That was the moment that I had to really kind of take a break and be like, something's not right. And then the disengagement piece came after I came back to work, taking some of that time off. So portfolio or persona shift was very different. And I would love to know how you've sort of experienced this in your space. So this is just to set the stage. We've talked about this before last year, so this information is not new. It is on the Jetty Wellness blog, and we've given you a whole bunch of information on burnout profiles as its own sort of individual piece. Leanna, nice to see you as well. Thank you for joining. So that just sort of sets the stage. So while you're kind of looking at the slide, I just want you to focus on kind of where you're at, or where do you think you may be, or how did that feel like? Do some own self-awareness. You don't have to put a comment in the chat if you don't feel like, but this is just sort of your own assessment of where you might have been. And like I said, this is very flexible. Now, building on this, okay, we're going to build on this concept. Building on this concept of disengagement and overextension and the ineffectiveness, why is it okay to have the same feedback and strategy? So when we wrote this March blog, the audience that this was written for was for managers and team leads and people that are in supervisory positions, and also for themselves, to be quite honest, because you might be experiencing any one of these elements here. So building on this, if you are someone that's either disengaged or overextended or feeling that ineffectiveness sort of pop in, once again, I'll turn my camera off at this moment in time and I can turn that back on later. But in these spaces right here, I strongly believe that if we are providing feedback, and feedback is such a powerful tool when it comes to supporting individuals through their burnout, but also the return to work individuals returning back to work after burnout. We cannot be adopting the same type of strategies for all these different groups of people. It doesn't make any sense to be giving the disengaged and the overextended human and the ineffective human the same exact strategy. That is where the R2C2 feedback framework, which is also peer reviewed and highly researched, kind of comes in. R2C2 is basically the two R's and the two C's that you can see on the slide. There's the two R's, which is relationship and reactions, and the two C's, which are content and coaching. So the way that we've been able to create this sort of framework to help managers and to help leaders help their staff from not being disengaged and not being overextended and ineffective is through this very strategic kind of R2C2 framework. So what I'm saying is, if you notice disengagement in your team, this is where that high cynicism has come in. They're checked out, basically, right? They're doing that quiet quitting. They're not interested in participating in team meetings. They're just kind of like, they're not happy. And you can tell that they're not happy and they're going through their own sort of burnout. So what you can do is use two elements of the R2C2 framework. And in this case, I'm suggesting that you use relationship and context by asking curious questions, by following through on promises. Oh, good Lord, when a leader says, I'm willing to help you, or I want to get back to you on some timeline on the project that you've submitted, follow through on that promise, because the disengaged is waiting for that. And that's how you're able to sort of get them through that burnout cycle and into something that's more sustainable. Share the why. There's a lot of us in that disengaged category that may start to feel like, why am I here? What am I doing? What does this even mean to me? So in those spaces, it's very, very important to ask those questions and follow through on those promises, and tell them why this company is important. Why is Jetty Wellness doing what it's doing, right? Why do you show up to work? Why is this project important? State that, share that, build that relationship, and give that context. That would be the strategies that a disengaged staff would need, that I'm suggesting that a manager or a leader try to adopt. The middle one, this is the most common one, the overextended. That is very common, the burned out battery. We've seen this a lot. This is the most common type of burnout, that when we say burnout, we feel this way, right? So in this space, to help an individual like this, especially the high performing individuals that are unwilling to go to take leave, they don't want to take the leave because it's their ego, perhaps it's their values, perhaps, and they don't want to disappoint their team, perhaps. I've been through all of them, I'll tell you that much. So how do we help the overextended individual? We help them by clarifying those priorities, because when you're overextended, everything feels urgent, everything feels important. So you really want to be able to like help them decipher what that timeline looks like and those priorities, and someone to basically tell me like, hey Smana, this is not important, we can do this in the next month. Let's just focus on this. That's the type of reaction I want from my manager. That's the type of support that I'm looking for in those spaces. Checking in on me, right? What does those feelings look like? Don't patronize me. I'm a high performing individual, but I do want you to check in on me, on my projects, and help me sort of guide and negotiate what does that look like for me, because our ego is still quite strong and we don't want to leave our jobs. We want to stay committed, but we're also kind of fighting this internal battle of being really, really tired. So it's really, really hard in these situations. And last but not the least, to simplify that information, and I'm sure in the chat box, if you want to put that in there for me, this is so common for people in that middle category. We start to feel like everything feels really complicated, like the VUCA conversation we have, the volatile, uncertain, complicated, ambiguous space that we're in. It starts to feel like nothing makes any sense. I remember feeling like even typing my password onto my computer used to feel so complicated. And these would be simple things, and it would be hard for me to follow really simple flowcharts, but really sitting down with your staff and like simplifying that information for an extended amount of time, and just kind of helping them get again through the burnout, right? That's what we want to do. We don't want them getting more sucked in. We want them to help get to the other side while still maintaining their sustainability in that work environment. Last but not the least, that ineffective one. I really love talking about this because I don't think a lot of people realize that this is also a really big part of burnout, is the people that start to feel like, I'm not good at my job. I used to be really, really good at my job, and now I feel like I'm terrible at my job. And that switch happened, and I have no idea that I can ever do this job, right? So that is something that is very common in high performing individuals. So how do we support that? Take a page from the R2C2 framework, use coaching and use relationship building to help the ineffective individuals start to feel that they are a contributing member of the organization, of the team, and encourage those wins. You've done some great work. Again, not patronizing, but really just making them appreciate, the good work that they're doing. Get them to give you some input on some ideas, innovation. This is great when we're starting to feel like I'm not good at my job. Give me kind of a exciting new project and say, hey, why don't we realize, again, this is a great time to think about what are some great strengths that this individual has in my team, and how do I now invite them to maybe contribute more towards those strengths that they feel they seem to have maybe lost because of their burnout. And last but not the least, just guiding them through. And I think in all of these spaces, it's really important to guide them through and to be a support system for them. And I know this is really hard, and it can seem really hard, especially for managers who are not used to managing these different types of people. But once you sort of figure out, like, what are the symptoms am I seeing, how is this person disengaged, how is the high performing individual so burnt out and so overextended that every email from them comes at 2 o'clock in the morning, and every email from them feels like it doesn't make any sense. These are the behavioral cues that I want you to pay attention to. And what happened to that ineffective person? This person used to be the one asking all the questions in the meeting. What happened? This is terrible. How do we now help them, right? So these are the strategies that I want you to use. So this is my 15-minute of reskilling. Please go read the blog on jettywellness.com/blog. We've given you all the information there as well. And to add more information, we are doing a not LinkedIn, I take that back. We are doing a a full 60-minute session on this on the 26th of March as well. And this is a free event. There are some ticketing options as well. If you want to pay, you can pay. If you don't want to pay, that's totally fine. But if you want to dig more into this, Hannah and I are going to be doing another extended workshop on this at around the same time, I believe, on the 26th of March. Okay, with that being said, I'll turn my camera back on and let me look at some of the comments. And please ask me any questions. This is your time to ask me questions, and I know help. And yeah, I'm happy to answer them. We have about like 10 minutes or so. So let me just see what we have here. Number one, Stephen, you said that in my 9 years ago, prior to changing my career, there was a mix of overextended and inefficacy. Yeah, it's really good to realize that that could be one or two things. And you know what? In the workshop, when we do it on the 26th, I will add that really cool, almost like a 4D graphic that I found from this really incredible research paper that really shows that we might be doing all three of them and not realizing that all three of them are happening at the same time. But I do remember pretty specifically, just like you do, Stephen, I remember pretty specifically that I felt the ineffective hit me first. That was like the first sign of like, oh my God, I'm terrible at my job. Like, I am so bad at this job. Why did they hire me? They've made a huge mistake. And this is me like 4 or 5 years into the job. So this isn't like a new thing. And then I had something else happen. And then the exhaustion hit me like a school bus. It was so hard, so fast. And then the other thing happened when I returned back to work. So in reflecting about this many years later, I'm able to tell you that these are the ways that this happened. But at the time, not knowing this information, I had no idea. So that's why I'm here to share this information with you. Okay. All right. Let's see what Marie K has to say. I was really good about hiding my journey towards the brink of my burnout. Plus, I thought I was Superwoman. Oh, girl, of course you thought you were Superwoman, because we all do. Superman, Superwoman, even the Avengers. Who's Avengers? Who are some Avengers fans out here? I'm a huge Marvel fan. But anyways, even the Avengers. Remember when Thor goes through a massive like burnout/depression and gets fat? Even the Avengers, the superheroes, the mighty heroes of the galaxy can also burn out and go through a crisis. So we're just humans, but you're right, we want to hide it. And just like you, I'm pretty sure I was hiding a lot of stuff until you can't hide it no more, right? It's kind of like, oh, it's a little too late for me to hide this. I really can't do it. Fantastic comment from Meryl. Thank you for being such a great supporter of Workplace Wellness Hour, of this kind of new initiative that we've started. Again, just to give you opportunities to learn and to keep it simple. There's so many elements of content that we're putting out, and sometimes it can be really complicated if you read it. So then explaining it to you this way, maybe there's a better way to learn. So that is my goal, is really just to make sure that I'm teaching you all the things from research in a very strategic way, in as many ways as possible, which is another reason why we're doing the Zoom training, a more closed network training that I'm going to do on Zoom. So it's not going to be live like this, but it is going to be for the people that have registered. So there is a link on Eventbrite that I'm happy to put in the chat. If you want, just give me a holler and I can do that. But that is an option for more of that detailed one. Again, no barrier to learning. I'm a huge believer that learning needs to be as accessible as possible, keeping everything fair and equitable. So if you can pop in, I'll be there. Hannah's going to be there, and we'll go through some of this content among other things. And managers, leaders, even high performers, even if you're not a manager or leader, I would love for you to come. Anyone from HR, you should definitely come, and yeah, spread the word. Please help me. That would be fantastic. Lots of room for lots of people to have some learning and development here. Okay, couple more minutes. Hi, Jay. Thank you for joining Eastern time. I know you. That is great. And what else do we have here? What has burnout been like for you as you took on a leadership role? Great question. As the company is growing faster and faster. Our ambassador program is growing faster. We've also now started our student well-being kind of arm. So we've got the corporate well-being initiative and we've got the student well-being arm as well, which I'm very, very passionate about. Gotta love the young people that are moving into the workforce, teaching them some really strategic ways to prevent burnout. So, kind of going downstream a little bit more. So, to answer your question, what has burnout been like for me in a leadership role? To be quite honest, I know the science. I think the easiest thing about being in this space and kind of teaching other people is you become really, really self aware and you're like, I know exactly where I'm at. And we have our ambassador meeting kind of once a month on Zoom. And I think last month or January, Hannah and some other people were in my meeting, and I think I said something like, I think I'm kind of experiencing a bit of like irritability and just lack of sleep and just feeling like really tired. And I know what that's like. I know what that's like because I teach this stuff, right? So being able to identify that has become easier in the leadership spaces that I'm in. And because it's easier, I'm able to scale back. So I don't know if you've seen, I may have posted about this, but I've scaled back tremendously. I know exactly what I need to do so that I'm not getting myself into that lost spiral. So I scaled back on TikTok almost 2 years now. I don't think I've posted any content on TikTok at all. I've scaled back on Instagram because I knew it was going to be Ramadan in kind of this time of the year. And it would have been impossible for me to do this and LinkedIn and all the work we're doing for our clients and do kind of content creation on Instagram, which I was like, something's got to give. So one of the biggest lessons I've learned through this training other individuals is knowing when I need to scale back on certain things and, keeping the community informed and just focusing on those high energy, high leverage spaces like LinkedIn and my mailing list as well. So scaling back, even if you're a manager or a leader, I'll put this back up just for a moment, but knowing when to scale back, whether you're a disengaged individual or an overextended or an ineffective, it's really important to be able to recognize that, I might be feeling one of these things. Maybe I don't feel confident to talk to my manager, but my manager knows that and is able to identify that I may be one of these three things, and is the manager doing all of these things to help me? Are they asking those questions? Are they building those relationships with me? Are they coaching me through things? Are they checking in and simplifying information for me? Are we able to negotiate a trade-off, right? We talk about this a lot in burnout. A good strategy is trade-off. I had to make a trade-off. Do I pick LinkedIn? Do I pick TikTok? Do I pick Instagram? Do I pick YouTube? What is the trade-off? Something's got to give. It cannot be me. I can't be the trade-off because I need to still survive and show up and do the work that needs to happen. So what can I trade off? So these low leverage, small elements that are not as important for the business, that's the trade off that I'm willing to make until the end of Q2 so that I can go right back in, figure out what needs to happen in Q1, and then sort of strategize that. Welcome, Christy, as well. Okay, I hope that answered your question. And what else do we have here? How can managers or CEOs fail to understand the various burnouts that may experience due to dealing with clients? How can managers or CEOs failing to understand? I think lack of education, right? Come learn. There's lots of ways to learn, right? We're out here pushing a lot of content, teaching you to think beyond the dead battery. The dead battery is just one element of burnout. There's so many other things that, on the either side of the spectrum that we're navigating. So it's really important to educate yourself, go out there, learn for yourself, learn for your team. So that's why we're hosting this webinar on the 26th as well. I wish I had, maybe I don't have it, but I will put it in the chat box later on. But I wish I had, maybe I do actually. Let me see if I can find it. But the 26th, the 26th is that 1 hour session. So that's what's happening. I would say learn and educate and get more clear on what this looks like and get clear on the behavioral cues that you might be missing for the disengaged person. quiet quitting is that behavioral cue. There's something's not right here. What is going on here? This person who was once very active, very vocal, was very initiative driven. What happened to this person? Why is this person quieter? Why is this person coming in, clocking out, not really showing any initiative? Those are things that we notice as leaders. I noticed it in my team. I noticed it with myself. So leaders, please, if you notice this, that would be my biggest thing. If you're noticing these things changing and you're seeing different people, either sending you those 2 a.m. emails, calling in sick, forgetting passwords, general behaviors that are not their regular behavior. So a really social person that is no longer social, is not coming to team lunches. They don't want to participate in activities. Something's changed. And obviously it doesn't mean that it is burnout. It could be a plethora of other things that could be the reason. But your job, and I'll end by saying this final thing, your job, in this last minute that I have, your job is not to be diagnosing. You're not a doctor. I know Imran is, but I'm not a doctor. I just know science and research, and I love reading and sharing information, but I'm not a doctor. But what I will say to you as leaders and people that are responsible for teams, responsible for yourself, noticing behavioral cues and not punishing people. I also would love to say that if you're noticing behavioral cues that fit in one of those categories, please don't punish your team, right? Please don't tell them something that might throw them over the edge a little bit more. Just be kind to them, come with empathy, ask those curious questions, give them those resources, right? Send them to where they need to go to get the diagnosis. But do this, do the relationship, do the content, do the reactions, right? Do all of that. We definitely need you to be using these strategies in the work environment. You are not using these strategies to become a doctor to diagnose, because it could be something totally different that could be the reason that they are the way that they are. So with that being said, thank you so much for chiming in, listening in. I appreciate you. I love your energy and your passion. No doubt you're totally fired up tonight. I don't know. I don't know if I'm fired up tonight. I feel like I'm really tired. So thank you for thank you for saying that I'm fired up. I actually don't feel like I'm that fired up. I wish I was more fired up, but maybe I'm able to do a better job even in my fasting moments. So thank you for that. I appreciate your comment. Charlie, your comment, drawing up from within. Yes, I love that. I think there was another comment about AI, which, do you believe AI, I'll just maybe just pop that in. Do you believe AI and bots are contributing to burnout because of the fear? Absolutely. I'm freaked out about it. I haven't really done a lot of research on this particular topic, but possibly, yeah, I'm sure there's some theory behind that. Definitely happy to talk about that later on. Other comments, don't get drafted into someone else's war. Exactly. You're right. We're not here to solve your personal crisis. We're just here to guide you and to help you show up as that high performing, amazing individual that you are, who loves their job. And you're here and you were performing once and something shifted. That is our role in the work environment, right? So we really want to be able to maintain those boundaries and not go too far into the diagnosis space, which is not our territory. Okay, last but not the least, from the doctor himself, Imran Rauf. I wish we could capture all the emojis anonymously using a QR code at our workplace. Yes, absolutely. What emojis though? What emojis would we be capturing? I would love to maybe get a little bit more context on that one. But you're right. If there is a way to, and you know what, I like that you said anonymously. That is one thing we need to be really careful about. Is in these spaces there is a lot of shame and stigma in burnout. It is what it is, right? Even though we talk about it, and even though there's all these content out there, there's still a lot of us that are like, no, I can't be that person. I can't be the person that burned out. We're hiding, right? We want to be the superwoman, superman, and say that could never be me. But I do always say this to workplaces when we do our sort of quantitative audit. I always say we've got to collect some data. I've got to know what the baseline is for this company. And we've got to do it in a kind of a really creative way. And we've got to do it anonymously, because there's no way that people are going to self-disclose their burnout status, because there's fear, because we don't know how the management might react. There might not be psychological safety. There might be retaliation. So we don't want to share that, but maybe through sort of different domains, if we can anonymously capture at various moments what the data is, that might be a really a cool strategy to know, what is the burnout like. I don't know if that's what you were talking about, Imran. I hope I'm not out to lunch on this one. Other comments? Okay, I'll stay for another minute or so. We need each other's positive experiences, not each other's negative disease. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, 100%. We're not here to, and here's the thing, right? Charlie, as well, when we are when I'm in a bad, say for example, I'm in a bad place, I'm burnt out, I'm like disengaged and just not in a good place. But I'm generally not that person. Like something's shifted, right? So still treat the human with kindness, still treat me with compassion, and don't treat me differently just because I'm going through something. Yes, emotions. How are we feeling? Imagine we had a creative. Oh my God, yes. You know what? I think many, many years ago, there was an initiative done by the. It was a little bit different, because I think what you're saying is anonymous, which I love more. But many, many years ago, I'll end with the story. I think it was a Canadian Mental Health Association, so CMHA, I think, or one of those bigger mental health foundations in Canada. They had released these like badges, pins, not badges, pins, that there was all these different pins that you could wear, different colors, different emojis, different feelings. And the whole idea was, if you could just say, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm feeling anxious. And the goal was to reduce the stigma on mental health. But I think, don't get me wrong, or I'm not, maybe fact check me on this one, but I think it backfired. I think people didn't like that initiative because there was no anonymity, and I don't think people felt safe wearing those pins. So I think that project didn't reach its expected outcomes. But anyways, it's this I like this better. How are we feeling? Create a dashboard and do something anonymous, so we're adding trust to that psychological safety piece. And we don't want people to share something they don't want to share, right? We don't want that happening. Okay, well, thank you so much for your engagement, and thank you for your commitment to stay here and watch us for about a little over 30 minutes. I think I went over my time today. I'm so sorry. I wanted to keep this to 30 minutes, but appreciate you hanging around. I'll be back in April. Second Wednesday of every month, a session like this. Please let your folks know. And if you're coming on the 26th, please come on the 26th. The 26th of March, we are doing a long version of this in a closed environment on Zoom, hosted by Jetty Wellness. I'll be one of the primary facilitators. Hannah's going to be the secondary facilitator. And we're going to have a blast. So if you want to come join that session, please do. The link is on the Jetty Wellness page. There's also an event on Eventbrite. And after the show's done, I'll put that link in the chat box as well. Thank you so much. I'm going to go rest for a little bit. I'm going to break my fast in about an hour, little under an hour, or a little over an hour. So I'm just going to hang in there. And I will be back in a couple of weeks. And everybody who joined, thank you so much. Imran, Marie, Charlie, and who else was here? Meryl, Jay, yay, and I think I'm missing someone. Oh, and who did I just saw someone's name, and I am missing that name. Let me see here. Christy, yes, Christy was here, and who else was here? Sorry, I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody that was here. I think that was it. I think that was most of them, right? Okay. Oh, and Liana, that's the one. Okay, and Liana. Thank you, Liana. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Maybe I'll see you on the 26th. Please join. Let your people know. Let HR know. And I'll see you on the second Wednesday of April. Okay, cheers. Bye.